a group of Jews gathered in a small synagogue in Squirrel Hill, Pittsburgh, to read the Torah. For those of you who don't know, every Shabbat, Jews gather to read a slice of the Torah, the 5 books of Moses. It's a beautiful cycle. The entirety of the book is read over the course of a year, and then the book begins again. Ein Sof. No end. Growing up, I never put much thought into this cycle. Some of my favorite memories of Judaism growing up were of Simchat Torah, which is essentially a big party where people whimsically dance with Torah scrolls and eat candy apples to celebrate the cycle repeating itself. I remember watching the scroll rewind like a cassette tape, flipping from the death of Moses all the way back to in the beginning. I never asked why we read the Torah out loud or in public to begin with. The first record of the Torah being read out loud was thousands of years ago after Moses in the book of Nehemiah. Nehemiah was a eunuch who became an important Jewish leader, bringing the Jews back from Babylonian exile to their homeland in the beginning of the building of the Second Temple. After completing this massive journey, Nehemiah assembles the Jewish people in the city square in Jerusalem and has the head priest Ezra read from the Torah for the first time. As it is written, all the people came together as one in the square. They told Ezra, the teacher of the law, to bring out the Torah. So on the first day of the 7th month, Ezra the priest brought the Torah before the assembly, which was made up of men and women and all who were able to hear. He read it aloud from daybreak till noon in the presence of men, women, and others who could understand. Ezra opened the book. All the people could see him because he was standing above them. As he opened it, the people all stood up, and all the people listened attentively to the Torah. Then Nehemiah and Ezra said to the people, "This day is holy to the Lord your God. Do not mourn or weep." For the people had all been weeping as they listened to the Torah. Nehemiah said, "Go and enjoy choice food and sweet drinks, and send some to those who have nothing prepared. This day is holy to our Lord. Do not grieve, for joy is your strength." Then all the people went away to eat and to drink and to share food with the poor and to celebrate with great joy, because now they understood the words that had been made known to them. In some ways, this text was my inspiration for this public assembly. I am thrilled thinking about how old the tradition of public reading the Torah is. Throughout exile, diaspora, and genocide, the same book has been read again and again for 2.5 millennia. But I am also thrilled thinking about how new the tradition is. It wasn't instituted in the mythical time of the judges or of the prophets. It only began after the diaspora had begun. I find it striking that Ezra and Nehemiah had to tell the assembly to rejoice and not to mourn. And I find it impossible to instruct you to do the same thing. Because only 7 days ago, the public reading of the Torah was the occasion for 11 Jewish deaths. And I get chills thinking that some of the last words those people heard before their murders were the same ancient words that had been chanted for generations before them. As much as I find this one passage of Nehemiah moving, I cannot endorse most of what Nehemiah or Ezra stood for. In their eyes, the greatest sin that the Jews had committed while in exile was intermarriage. The pair made those guilty of marrying foreign wives publicly confess to their sin and then abandon their wives and children. The horrifying part of this all is that the hatred of intermarriage and the fetishization of racial purity is not only persisting in the Jewish establishment, but in this country. Just this week, we have watched our supposed president attempt to destroy the constitutional concept of birthright citizenship. If If he has his way, children born in the United States will be second-class citizens, or simply not citizens at all, like the dreamers, like the migrants, like the refugees and undocumented folks, and Muslims traveling to this country. When planning this service, I had a choice to make. I knew that I wanted to bring an assembly to the public square to read from the Torah, but I did not know if we would read from Vayera, the same portion that was read at the Tree of Life that day, or if we would move on and we would read the next portion, Chaye Sarah. The title, Chaye Sarah, means the life of Sarah, but the portion begins with Sarah's death. My comrade Lex pointed out to me how profound this is. Sarah's role in the reading is absence. We feel her loss throughout the narrative. To put it bluntly, she was remembered for dying. I find the comparisons to Pittsburgh victims all too much to bear. Most of us don't know their stories. We just saw their names, with their ages printed neatly next to them. And we know that they have been killed. I ended up choosing this portion because its themes about death and mourning, but also because of its themes about foreignness and placemaking and coming together. Abraham sums up this duality when he says, Ger v'toshav anochi. I am a stranger and a resident. I am foreign, but I live here. The Canaanites treat him with great respect and deal fairly with him. When Eliezer, his servant, travels across the desert to search for a bride for Isaac, Rebekah doesn't fear him. She treats him with great respect and gives him water when he is thirsty. And when Abraham passes away, his long-lost Egyptian son Ishmael returns from Paran to help Isaac bury him. The portion teaches us to love and care for the foreigner in our midst, because life is precious and death unites us all. It is worth noting that the Jews murdered in Pittsburgh did not only die because they were Jewish, although the shooter made his hatred of us very clear. He targeted the Tree of Life congregation specifically because they had hosted a refugee Shabbat. He targeted the Tree of Life because they stood with HIAS, the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, an organization that helps refugees make it safely to the U.S. Open your eyes, the shooter posted just weeks before the attack. The filthy, evil Jews are bringing the filthy, evil Muslims to this country. This attack had as much to do with Islamophobia and white supremacy as it did with anti-Semitism. The fates of Jews and of Muslims and of people of color and of queer people and of trans women and of all targets of fascism are bound up together. We are living under fascism. This attack was no isolated incident. This was not one single depraved action of a disturbed man. This attack is just one of many acts of terror. I'm Kennedy now. Of terror that the United States is responsible for. The shooting in Kentucky the night before that killed 2 black people, may they rest in power, was another. The confinement of children in cages is another. The assassination of Michael Brown was another. The state is responsible for every trans woman who commits suicide, for every wrongfully convicted criminal on death row, for every person who dies without health insurance, for every rape victim whose story is dismissed, for every indigenous person who lives in poverty, for every refugee who is sent back to their homeland to die. Violence is violence, whether it is enacted by one white man or a whole Congress of white men. Ezra and Nehemiah, they told you not to weep, or be afraid, or be angry. They told you to celebrate in the Torah, but they failed to observe the commandment from Leviticus 19:33. When a foreigner resides in your land, you must not oppress him. Well, I'm here to tell you that you can feel whatever you need to feel. If that means weeping or crying, then God fucking damn it, you should weep. If that means being afraid, I will not give you false hope. We are living in dangerous times. Gathering here as Jews takes courage. It takes guts. It takes koach. We live in a world where we can be killed for assembling. We live in a world where we can be arrested for protesting, as Jews in New York City and in Boston were arrested this week. Fear is okay. as long as it keeps us on our toes and not in our homes. And as for anger, as for fury, it is righteous. Justice, justice you shall pursue. And you must tear down all the barriers to justice. The Jews are not a pious, complacent people that will offer thoughts and prayers when our people are gunned down.
Yes.
We will fight, we will sing, and we will pray with our fists if we have to. We will pray with all of our hearts and with all of our souls and with all of our might. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.